Speaker and events also remain pretty steady. And then sponsorships, there was an increase associated with additional sponsorships associated with the AGM. The last item there is miscellaneous, which is shown as a negative. And this is the discounts that we provide to gold and silver member firms for job advertisements and postments on the AALA website. Any questions? If not, we'll move to the next slide, please, Todd. Okay, so we have expenses in front of you, and again, we have 2018 reviewed and 2019 reviewed. So there was a slight change between the 2 years where we did a little bit of a review of how we classify items, and that is why some of the items are larger in 2019 versus 2018. So for instance, the executive director costs were higher. This included Todd's salary, but also attendance at events and travel costs. Again, administration increased, but this was associated with how we classified our expenses. Board and committee expenses were also higher in 2019. 2019 was an investment year for the association, and the competency project was completed in 2019, as well as website upgrades. So financials, our financial items include audit fees, GST, and insurance, and looks to be a slight increase between the 2 years, but again, that comes down to how we're classifying our expenses. Overall, there was a slight decrease between 2018 expenses and 2019 expenses. Any questions? If not, we'll move to the next slide. So again, we have our 2018 reviewed and our 2019 reviewed revenue and expenses totals. And 2019, there was a net gain of $6,493. Any questions? Okay, next slide, please, Todd. If there's no questions at this point, I'm going to make a motion to accept the 2019 reviewed financial statements as presented by Y&A LLP Chartered Accountants. And as I mentioned earlier, they are available on the FeedLoop platform, and they will be posted to the website after the AGM. Do we need a second for that, Todd?
No, we use the small committee rule, so we don't need seconds for anything.
Okay.
Discussion?
Questions, discussion?
Seeing none. Motion carried.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Todd. Next slide, please. Okay, so we'll just quickly go over our 2020-2021 outlook. So what you have in front of you is the 2019 reviewed, the 2020 budget, the 2020 year to date, which was up to the end of October. And we also have 2021 budget in the last column. So currently we are projecting to end close to our 2020 budget. So you'll see the totals at the end of the chart. And year to date, we're sitting at about 205,000, and our budget was 210,000 in terms of revenues. We do, as I mentioned earlier, have royalties for the annual, which is our fall publication, which are forthcoming. You'll also see that we have some dollars in the miscellaneous item, $5,745. The association did receive Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy, and it's been placed under miscellaneous just for 1 month. The last column has our 2021 budget, and at this time we haven't delved into too much detail, but the board will be reviewing the budget in December. So at the moment we put it forward as the same budget as 2020. Any questions on revenues? Okay, next slide, please, Todd. Okay, again, we have our 2019 reviewed, our 2020 budget, 2020 year to date, which was to the end of October, and our 2021 budget. And this is relating to expenses. So at the moment, we're sitting at about $166,526, and our 2020 budget was $228,127. You'll notice that at the top is the ED costs, and they are lower at this point in time, but we do have salary remaining for the remainder of 2020. But we also note that there's been a lot less travel and in-person events this year, so we do expect ED costs to be lower. We do have some forthcoming expenses before the year end, and those include scholarships, GST, and website upgrades that are planned before year end. Any questions on expenses presented in front of everybody? Okay, if not, next slide, please, Todd. Here is our net. We've got, again, 2019 reviewed, 2020 budget, 2020 year to date, and 2021 budget. So we've got our total revenue and expenses. And as you'll see, we had anticipated 2020 to be an investment year again. However, due to the situation that we find ourselves in with coronavirus, we anticipate that that will be a lot less than what was anticipated in terms of investment for 2020. So we likely reduce that $17,836 once we have year-end financials. Any questions about the net information that's presented? Okay, Todd, do you have any comments on financials?
Yeah, the only thing I'd say is I often get quite a bit of feedback informally from members about budgeting and the investment we've been doing. We often budget to invest, and then knowing that some stuff's not going to come through. And to be fair, a lot of the 2020 investment was intended to be offset by CSLA Congress revenues as well. The 2021 budget will still shift. It shifted a little bit as some of the planned 2020 expenditures still happened. 2021, the board will have to do a much tighter go through just to make sure that everyone's comfortable. I anticipate that the net contribution, if there is any for 2021, will be much smaller. A big part of that is a lot of the events that we normally attend. I'll be very surprised if they reemerge in 2021. So I think that number will shift. I think this year we'll finish well in the black just because of unexpended funds as well. But other than that, generally it's quite stable.
Thank you. Next slide, please. Okay, so we have a motion to accept the 2020-2021 financial outlook for information. Any questions, comments at this point in time?
Luke, do you want to go ahead? You'll need to unmute. Oh, never mind. That's an error click. No questions. And up here. Guessing there's no comments, so we'll call the question for you.
Yes, please.
Voting's getting much faster.
It's the end of the day, Todd.
That's the practice. They're getting people are practicing their voting. There we go. That should be everybody, I think. Oh no, some people have just. Not everyone votes all the time. Any other votes?
No missing votes?
Oh, it's tough to tell right now. There's a lot of people. I'm kind of going, what I've learned doing it this way is you sort of aim to hit the same number of people each time. There's always a percentage that aren't voting. So I think we're okay. We'll call that one. So that passed.
Awesome. Thank you, Todd. Okay, so next section is about appointment of auditor. So essentially, Todd did some investigation last year into alternative firms, and we have been using Y&D for several years. So we may do a little bit more investigation, but at this time they are meeting the association's expectations. So there is a motion in front of everybody to empower the board to appoint the most economical auditor that can provide a review engagement that meets statutory requirements based on generally accepted accounting practices at the best price. Any questions, comments about auditor and the motion in front of everybody?
Doesn't seem to be any, no.
Okay, so maybe Todd, please call the vote.
It's carried.
Thank you. Okay, so the last component here is 2021 fees. So in 2020, we did have a fee increase. Each year, the board considers fee increases very carefully. And for 2021, there is no increase planned. So essentially, fees will remain as per what is presented in the 2020 column. Any questions, comments about fees at this point?
Doesn't appear to be any.
Okay.
That's you. Brought back to Matt.
Thanks, Todd.
Okay, thanks, Brian. New business. So this will entail some motions arising from the working sessions that we've had today and yesterday. Move us forward, Todd. We do have a motion from Andrew Kennedy that the AALA form a committee to develop a regional landscape charter in support of the Canadian Landscape Charter to describe Alberta's uniqueness. Is there any discussion on this item?
Does Andrew want to speak to it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can just, give a quick summary. So Mike and Matt with Todd hosted a great session yesterday. We had a bit of a brainstorming kind of session after they went over, the idea of a landscape charter, the background of the Canadian Landscape Charter itself, and the idea that it would be of benefit to start to have conversations around what makes Alberta unique and special. What are our regional landscapes that characterize this area, and start to kind of just work through that, I guess. Yeah, anyway, it was a great discussion, and I think would be a really interesting exercise and a really productive way to yeah, kind of start to have these discussions.
Thanks, Andrea. We'll open it up to any other thoughts on this motion.
Matt, is there a timeline associated with delivery of a charter?
Yeah, what we thought was that this would be about a year. So the intent would be that we form a committee that works together this year through a process that's still to be determined, but would be able to come back to the 2021 AGM to report back on what's happened. Ideally, it's a draft at that stage, and that could be reviewed.
Sounds good, thank you.
Okay. Well, questioning. Thanks, Doug.
We lost some people.
Okay, fast. Thanks, everyone. So we're looking for committee members. Talk to myself or Andrea or Michael should you want to get involved. Thanks. Okay, so yeah, on to the retirements and the new board. So with thanks, we give to Leah White for her time committed to the board, as well as Natalie Goulet Sorensen. Thank you. I'm not sure if you're both here, but if you are, I don't know, wave your hand or something. I don't know how we recognize. Thanks very much for your service. It's it definitely takes time. Anybody who's volunteered for the board in the past knows it does take time and effort, and we're really appreciative of all the volunteers that come and do dedicate their efforts to this. So thank you. Normally we had like a gifts that we would have. This is all just so impersonal.
No virtual
make sure
applause.
Can't even do applause. Next time we'll have to do this in the meeting room so everyone can put their cameras on and cheer.
Yeah.
Hopefully next year we'll be able to do it in person.
Yeah.
Virtual confetti. All right, it's Rita's turn.
All right, 2020 to 2021, here we go. I have to be able to read this, hey? For 2020, 2021, current board members were nominated for re-election, and no additional nominations were received in good order within the required timelines. So therefore, the returning members were elected, and then board members to appoint 2 members in good standing. So this was put out and appointed for a 1-year term. We have 2 new people coming on. returning members. So Michael Magnan will be stepping in as president. Brian Nolan is going to be president-elect, and Catherine Glendingan is staying on. And our new members, so welcome Caitlin Woods and Sarah DeCourt. So thank you two ladies. I'm excited to see what happens. Yes, and here is the whole board of directors. So yeah, good job everyone, and happy to see it filled and moving on.
Great. And this has got to be record. Yeah, thanks, Jarena. Welcome to the new board members. Caitlin will be taking over as with an associate position, which is fantastic to get an associate on the board. And Sarah, nice to welcome some fresh blood to the board, some youth and enthusiasm that we hope that you bring some rigor and some passion to the board. So appreciate that. And thanks to everybody else who's agreed to stay on. Thanks to Brian, stepping into the president-elect role. So that would be Brian's last speech and role as our treasurer. So we're very thankful for the efforts that you put in over the years. I think it's the hardest job on the board, mostly because I have an aversion for numbers. So I really appreciate the people that step into that role. And Mike Light has agreed to step into that role after Brian. So we're very appreciative of that. So thank you, Mike, for stepping up. So I think with that, we'll make a motion to adjourn.
You're all very fast at motioning to adjourn. Do we want to give people a 10-minute break and come back and do the awards at 4, just so that any students that are joining us late are able to do that?
Sounds good.
Awesome. We're back at 4 o'clock.
We're normally at least having a beer by now. So if you do have beverages nearby, please grab one and we'll toast our award winners.
Sorry. What happened to we lost a slide. We forgot to pass the torch. Did I put that in the awards?
What happened?
It was in there.
It's
did
in
I put it in the
presentation.
awards? Oh, I'm very sorry. Do you want to do that now, Mike, or do you want to?
Matt's refusing to cede power. He saw what's going on in the USA, and
I'm legally challenging this.
Yeah, he
power.
demands a recount.
No, I will gladly. You want to do it now?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Do you want to do it now, or do you want to do it at the award ceremony? Either is fine.
Let's do it now. I mean,
Sure.
I think everybody's sticking around, so yeah, we're gonna pass the gavel. I have and a bunch of other little things too that I've accumulated since Todd cleaned up and passed things along. So we have a gavel here. It was, for those who don't know the history of this, it was given a gift to the Alberta Association of Landscape Architects by the BC Society of Landscape Architects in celebration of our POARA becoming registered under the Registration Act. And this was done in 2011. I don't know much more about it, but it is a force. It's very, I do feel quite, regal holding it, and certainly something that it's been nice to have, and it's nice to pass it along over to Mike. So
actually, as before you pass it officially, Jim was around when we received it, and he's asked to share that story. So if you don't mind, I'm going to promote him so he can do that and even get on camera.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Because I'm excited to record this so we have it for posterity.
Yes.
All right, Jim, you've been promoted. You should be able to both put on your camera and unmute yourself now.
Look at that. That's really cool. I can speak and you can see me. That was actually, so it was handed to me when I was president at that time. But basically the way that works is it's First Nations where you can hand that to, basically when you're in this meeting, you hand that and that person speaks. No one else can speak while they're holding it, but that's symbolic for us. And we just have that go from president to president, and they can keep it in their home or at the office or whatever. Mm-hmm. It was a really wonderful act, I thought, from the BCSLA when they did that. I think we were all really touched by it.
Thanks, Jim.
That's great.
We also have probably what is a relic of this day. Plaque that hasn't been updated since you were president, Jim. But maybe we can make that a priority over the next year. But you do get a gavel with that too. So if the talking stick isn't enough, you can smash your desk, Michael.
Mm-hmm. Pound some meat.
I think we have
tenderized minute steak.
Yeah. There is another relic that you can have, which I think is what you smash the gavel onto, that also has not been updated in quite some time. I think, Carol, you're the last president on here in 2006, 2007. So
well, we'll update the names and we'll end up with a new tier, like the Stanley Cup.
Yeah. But no, I'm very pleased to pass this on to Michael. For Michael and I actually worked together for almost a decade here at O2. So we both cut our teeth on projects. We got mistaken for each other over the years. And it's been really a pleasure to see Michael, his transition to city life and the work that he's been able to accomplish there. And I think his perspective is going to be definitely valued by the association and bring a great perspective to the next year. And I know Michael's got some great ideas, and we'll and
my dog just decided to say hi. Say hello, everyone.
So, Mike, thanks for taking this on.
Thanks, Matt. Not too much to say today, but thanks for everyone for sticking around today. And my virtual door is always open. The talking stick, I will hand it to anyone that wants to hold it virtually. Yeah, I think I've really enjoyed being on the board and being able to collaborate with people, and being at the city allows me to collaborate with all of you. So that's kind of going to be my theme a little bit, I think, is collaboration and participation of members. Really encourage people to get involved with our association. It's rewarding work, and frankly, it doesn't take a lot of time. It breaks up your day. It allows you to sort of get out of that somewhat competitive mode that we have as consultants, and to sort of work with like-minded individuals. So encourage you all to reach out and get involved with us.
Great. So now we can take a 4-minute break, and then we'll start the awards.
Sounds good.
I'll drop this off at your house on my way home.
Oh, that'd be awesome. I'm home. Yeah.
Dorina, you and I still have an outstanding task to give it a stand so that it stands up.
Yeah, that would actually be nice. It does sit quite nice, just like on top of a bookshelf.